Right. Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday before Thanksgiving. So just some reminders for my students in NFS 3025, or for all of you actually. Today at 3 o'clock, I'm doing a podcast episode with Nichols State, and that's one of the only ones left that I'm allowing students to pop in if they would like to. So that's on this Zoom, 3 o'clock. If you're interested in that program, you can ask questions of Ashley and Sherry, who will be with me. And then for my 3025 students, video link. And then if you still haven't done your self-eval for your poster presentation from last week, please make sure you get that done for Wednesday at 12:30. And we won't have class on Wednesday to give you some extra time. And then we voted on Friday about how we are going to have class the last week of the semester, and it will be on Zoom. Overwhelming vote to have virtual class that week. And I actually found out on Friday that I don't know if it's going to be, I think at the end of this school year, LSU is ending their contract with Zoom. So I'm going to use it as much as humanly possible before we have to all move to Microsoft Teams and be miserable. So I'm be using it as much as I can. So I will send y'all info about that when we get closer to that last week of class. So I'm going to turn it right over to our alumni. This is our second year we've done, or we are doing, this Ask Me Anything session with some recent alumni so that they can tell their stories for you, and you can ask them pretty much whatever you feel you need to about senior year, preparing, applying for internships, being in an internship, about to finish an internship, whatever y'all feel like you need to know. It is going to come from the best sources of those that have just done it, not myself. So I'm going to turn it over to Brooke. We'll do Brooke, Andy, Marlena, because that's the order on my screen. Just give us a little bit of an intro to you and what you've been doing this year to get us started.
Hey guys, I'm Brooke Lowenkron. I'm at Franciscan Missionaries at Our Lady University. We're on SN Lane in Baton Rouge. So this is a combined DI/Master of Science. And I have 3 weeks left of this internship, but going backwards all the way to the beginning, I've completed over 1,500 hours of supervised practice in my dietetic internship. We finished about a month ago, and I've ranged from clinical to community to food service management, business, entrepreneurship, research, and we did a lot of simulations too that they offer in the Ceph lab, which is really cool. They have like dummies, for lack of a better word, that you're able to kind of do some practice before you actually get inside of the hospitals and do those like NFPEs, things like that, to prepare you. So that's kind of a proprietary thing about FranU. And as far as the Master of Science goes, I have a couple weeks left. We do what's called a capstone research scholarly project. You're able to choose it. So whatever title subject you want it to be about. My title is Exploring Advocacy and Public Policy, Educational Strategies Nationwide. So that's just kind of something that I'm really interested in. So, but you get to choose it as you prefer. So that's a brief overview of what I've been up to the last year and a half as far as the internship and Master of Science goes. Go ahead, Andy.
Okay, hi guys, my name is Andy. I graduated from LSU last May. I'm in a dietetic internship at Vanderbilt in Nashville, and it's just the internship, no masters with it. It's 10 months long, so I just kind of started and I graduate in June. There's two like big sections of the Vanderbilt dietetic internship. There's a community side and then a clinical side. And I'm starting out in community. So then half of us are in community now, and the other half are in clinical. And then in January, we'll switch. So next semester, I'll be in clinicals. But it's been going really well. Projects, kind of working from 8 to 5. But overall, it's been really good. So, yeah.
Hi, I'm in the 2-lane dietetics program right now. We started 2 weeks late in August, or basically September because of the hurricane. We started in September. We go till June. We also graduate in June. So the two-lane program, we definitely get a lot of different kinds of rotations. There's two lanes kind of known for its heavier emphasis on community. I've been to so many rotations so far that it's all gone by really quickly, and I can't believe Christmas is almost here. It's not a combined, the program I'm in is not a combined master's. Two-lane does do master's programs alongside the internship you can do, or before if you want. So yeah, that's about it.
All right, so since this is an Ask Me Anything session from the students, I want to turn it right over to you and let y'all ask questions before I go through just random questions that I might have. So if anyone does have a question, they can unmute and ask away.
I have a quick question. So has anyone in your internship have completed the master's before the internship? And if so, how is that going? Like, was that beneficial or was it just choice?
Yeah, so I can start. There's about 3 people in my internship class that have done a master's, and my roommate is actually finishing hers right now. I think it's definitely preference. It's really up to you if you want to do that first, but I will say they seem a lot more knowledgeable than just having an undergrad degree. But yeah, it's definitely preference.
And probably the most like attractive thing to me just doing that combined one is just because it's a fast track. So, but I don't know if that's for every program, but if you have the dietetic internship plus master's, at least at Fran U, it's 17 months. So that was attractive to me, getting it done quicker. But
I will say Vanderbilt is they're going to do a combined master's and dietetic internship, not next year, but the next. So.
Okay.
I think is it going to, Dr. McKinley, can you answer this question? Is it going to be required for all internships to kind of merge the two together, or at least they have to be going on at the same time or something like that?
In other words, each internship will now be responsible for making sure anybody who graduates after the deadline secures a master's degree before they are granted their verification statement. So they are not just going to provide an internship and let you float out in space without that master's and you're not able to take the exam. So starting with our 22 standards that are going into place in July, all internships will now have that as a goal or requirement, so to speak, that they have to either provide it or connect with some program in some way to give their interns options on programs. So no one will be left hanging, so to speak. And then some programs might just stay the way they are and just switch to applicants have to have a master's. That's at the preference of the program, so they don't have to worry about that part. All right, I see a question in the chat from Victoria. So for each of you, what has been your favorite rotation so far?
So far, my favorite rotation, we did a rotation with Eat Fit NOLA, and that's through Oshner Fitness. So we got to like go around with our preceptor to different restaurants, and they basically we did menu analysis and tried to see, took menu items that they had, ran them through the software to see if they match those Eat Fit requirements, and if they didn't, we could talk to the restaurants and see like if there was anything they wanted to change or anything to make them meet those requirements to be certified Eat Fit menu items. So and that was a really cool rotation because you really get to go around to a lot of the local restaurants in New Orleans, and you get to spend some time at the Oshner Fitness Center in Elmwood, and it was just a really fun rotation.
This is kind of a hard question, just because each week for me is so different and I'm just trying to enjoy all of them. But I guess my favorite one so far, I went to this clinic called the Diani Clinic at Vanderbilt, and it's when post-transplant patients go to this fitness center, and it's a bunch of nurses and PTs that work there, and they hook them up to these machines and help them start getting exercise after their transplant so that they can kind of get back to normal. And there's no dietitian there. They're currently hiring for one. So I was kind of the dietitian and talking to them about their goals and how they're going to change their eating habits. And they were all just really like, they wanted to change, and they were really looking forward to this second chance at life. So it was just a really good experience.
So mine was definitely Pennington Biomedical Research Center. At the time of my rotation, they had this study going on called OPS, and it was just an all-encompassing type dietitian focused sort of study that was going on, where they had to kind of starve them. It had to be a situation where if you were in war, active war, make it look and seem just as if they were over in the war zone. So they were starved of just basically eating very minimal amount of food and sleep deprived, and they had to perform very vigorous type of exercise, just anaerobic and aerobic. And so you would go over, the interns would go over and like watch this militarian type guy, like, you got to get in there and you got to work harder, and they're like dying because they're so hungry and tired. And then you would go over into the metabolic kitchen and give them Pop-Tarts, and they're like starving and like so upset. And then it's just very interesting to watch it all go down. And they're all doing it, of course, for compensation. They're there on their own free will, but it was just really interesting experience that I got to be a part of. So that was my favorite.
All right, we have a question in the chat from Olivia. For all, when applying to your internship, do you think the program is focused on what you want to do after you complete the internship, or are you still interested in another focus?
Okay, so I'll probably go first with this one. No, definitely not. But I think that that's just with many internships, they don't offer a lot of advocacy and public policy at all. So that's where I'm most interested. I would have loved to have seen a little bit more of that. But, you know, that's just the way the cookie kind of crumbled for me. And I'm thankful to have been part of this internship. It definitely prepared me for a vast array of different focuses. But yes, definitely choose your area of interest and try to get something like that in your internship that they have, if you can, if possible.
Yeah, so mine's kind of completely opposite of what I thought I wanted to get into. So I was very into sports nutrition, and I still am. And I applied to 2 internships that had a sports nutrition focus, and I didn't get those, and I got Vanderbilt. But I'm still very happy. I feel like it's also good to go into an internship that's not fully focused on what you want, just so you can experience other areas. So after this internship, I might go straight to sports after, or I might love something totally different. So it's just good to keep an open mind, but I would try and focus on internships that have a focus in what you like. But it's also not the end of the world if you don't get that.
So for Tulane's internship, actually, this is what I like a lot about it, is that we get to do a lot of different things. So I feel like even though I was like, I kind of knew what I wanted to, more or less what I wanted to do, I didn't have to be too secure in that, because I get to experience a lot of different things, because I do something different every week most of the time. The longest rotation is MNT, and it's 6 weeks. But so I feel like I get to touch on so many things that if there's something that I want to do, I feel like I'll get, or I will get, or I've gotten the opportunity to kind of experience it for just like a short period of time. So.
All right, so this question from Madeline is for Marlena. Do most people who get their master's while in the Tulane DI actually get it from Tulane?
In my experience right now, it does seem like most of the people do who are getting their masters that they get it from Tulane. We have a couple that got their masters before starting the internship program. And so, yeah, it does seem like more people get it from Tulane if they're doing the internship with Tulane. Oh, because you get 6 credit hours toward a master's degree with the program. So in public health, it's 6, right? Oh, it's 12. Okay. I have a small panel of other interns here to help me out with my question.
All right, questions from y'all.
Yes, I actually have two. So the first one is, I know most of y'all probably didn't interview in person because of COVID, but if you had to interview in person, what would be like the one like biggest tip that you would give to a student that has pretty much done like interviews like over Zoom or over like just questions given? Like what would be your tip to like, or suggestion to kind of like wow the panel or wow the people that you're getting interviewed by?
I did an interview last year. It was over Zoom. I haven't done an interview in person in a while, but I guess I would say just make sure you're dressed very professionally. It's better to be overdressed than underdressed. Make sure you look your best and just try and stay relaxed as you can. And just act like it's a conversation rather than you're being grilled.
So I would probably say, yes, that what Andy said, but also look over very intensely over their specific internship, their website that they have available for you, and study it like the back of your heart, whatever their mission is, their core values, what they are all about. Make sure you tie that into your interview and act like, I pray at night and I think about this internship and everything that it has involved, and make them feel like you're really sold on what they are trying to get you to learn in their internship, and act like, that's what you're all about. Come prepared.
You can also ask them questions too.
Yeah, it's a good idea to like take a look at their website and everything, and then maybe if there's anything missing from that information that you have, that prepared to ask them, because it shows them that you did go and you did the work. But also like, don't be afraid to like let them know that if that's the internship you want, I mean, be honest. Tell them that you want it, tell them why you want it. Because it worked for me. So
Yeah, and like if they have something on there like 32 hours a week, you're going to be doing this plus your master's at the same time. Really put an emphasis on, I acknowledge that it's going to be high stakes, it's going to be very intense, but I'm ready for it. And so just let them know that you are prepared to endure whatever it is that they have on their internship that you may or may not think that will stress you out and push your limits. Because a lot of times well, for me at least, definitely pushed my limits. And so.
Okay. And then my second question I have is, it kind of scares me, the fact that I'm not going to know until April, and then I have to potentially move somewhere that I may not like being like I'm not used to. So like, how did you all kind of adjust to that move, or kind of like make steps towards that move, especially if you don't know the place that you're going to, like you've never been there before?
That's a good one. So I applied to Nashville, Houston, and Tulane. So I had no idea where it was going to go. I was like, I could be anywhere. But I think having a good support system once you find out in April, and then just taking it's not like once you find out you have to rush to find where you want to live. It's kind of a slower process than you think. So my director actually sent us everyone's email addresses, and we started a group me, and then people started talking about roommates and stuff. So it's not like as soon as you find out, you have to run and go find a place. Just take it slow, go visit the area with your family in the summer and tour some places, and You'll be fine.
Yeah, I feel like for the other two, that's where you're from, right? So there was no period of adjustment.
Yeah, there was none.
Okay, thank y'all.
All right, Victoria put in the chat for everyone, was there a moment where you felt like you were stuck or had trouble with something? If so, can you go into detail about it and how you overcame it? I guess in a rotation, you felt stuck.
A lot of times I felt stuck. So many, my gosh. So there was this one instance I remember at the end of my very first fall semester, and I felt like I was just taking them down. I was like, wow, this is, I'm unstoppable. This is just gonna keep going. Like nothing is gonna get in my way. And then I got in contact with this one preceptor who's no longer there anymore, but she kind of was pushing me to, you need to volunteer more. And I really want you to kind of be the face of this volunteer work that involves me doing a whole lot of after school or just really going to compromise how I was going to be able to perform in my actual commitment of my dietetic internship and master's degree. And at the time, it's really awkward because you have this lady is your boss, this person is your boss. And if they want you to do something that's not really within the confines of what you're really there for, it's also you're being evaluated by them, and you don't want them to give you a bad critique or say something about you just because you're not, doing exactly what they want you to do. So at the time, I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll do it. Sure, I'll do whatever I can, And then after I got done with the rotation, I got my paperwork back. That's whenever I had to email her and let her know, look, I can't continue giving you more than I possibly can afford to give you without compromising my, grades and what I can do during my internship and master's program. So I just can't do this volunteer work with you like this. And of course she was angry and upset, but I had already gotten my paperwork back. So just try to, as best you can, if something like that happens where there's a preceptor that's kind of acting some type of way with you, try to prolong it and mitigate it as best as possible until after you get your paperwork back, because not all of them have the best heart, but most of them do. I don't want to discourage you guys either, but that was how I was able to overcome that. And I feel like I kind of played my cards right in that situation, where if I would have been like, well, I can't do that right now, I can't, told her the truth right away, it would have been a totally different outcome. Whenever I got that paperwork back, maybe she would have failed me because that would have caused me to have to come back, right? And that's kind of what she wanted me to do. She wanted me to stay there and continue working for her for free. So I was very scared of that. And that's kind of, you just have to feel your way out of things sometimes and be an advocate for yourself. Because only you were going through that specific rotation at the time. So that was a long answer, but it was a thing and it was hard. So yeah, sometimes it's hard.
I wasn't really stuck on anything specific, but I will say I was definitely couple weeks into it, I kind of got really anxious and overwhelmed and nervous. I think that's just because I'm a very nervous person, but just to get my advice is to give yourself grace and know that you're not going to please every single preceptor the way that you might want to. And it does feel like every week you're starting a new job because you're meeting your boss, and it can be overwhelming, but just give yourself grace, go through it. Your directors have your back. You have your internship class with you, and just don't put too much stress on yourself. I would say just enjoy the moment and be in the present.
I feel like, so I had one rotation where I felt like I was doing a lot of busy work, and I felt like I felt like I got handed off on people who weren't my preceptors. This was only one rotation I had like this, luckily. But I just kind of got through the week, and then at the end we have to evaluate all of our preceptors. So I just gave an honest evaluation, like without, bringing bone into it or anything, just about, because you have criteria that they have to meet as preceptors, and you give them an evaluation at the end of each rotation. So kind of like Andy was saying, where you just kind of not Andy, sorry, but where you just get through. And especially if it's a short rotation, you just understand like what you need from it. I definitely agree about setting those boundaries and just kind of like waiting until the right moment. And you can always talk to your director. The internship directors are generally pretty awesome, I think, at most internships, because they are there to help you. They can seem kind of intimidating right now during the application process, but I think once you get in, they're there to help you because they want you to succeed. That's what they want from you. So.
All right, more questions.
I have a question for Brooke. Sorry if it's loud. My washing machine's going on behind me. So I guess out of the people that you know that are doing the internship only, that aren't doing the master's like you, like what's the difference in y'all's workload? Like, do you have time to even have a job if you wanted?
Well, so to answer your first question, everybody's required to do the MS, NS, and dietetic internship. They're combined, so you're not allowed to do one or the other at Fran U in particular. But I do know, as far as just having a job, I don't have a job. I am a mom, but I do know a couple of people who do have a job, and they're able to kind of fit it in where they can. One girl, she's a server, and she works at night, but I do know that one in particular did end up having to drop the dietetic internship, and the dietetic directors were pretty accepting of it, but it was it's not something that they advertise or they're going to offer right off the bat for people who are incoming. So, but that did put a strain on her ability to perform in her dietetic internship, and ultimately she had to pull herself from that. And hopefully this isn't too personal information that I'm giving out, but yeah, so it did kind of put a strain on her ability to complete things. So they don't suggest that you have a job, and I wouldn't particularly suggest that you have one either, but it can be done. Don't ever let anybody tell you that you can't do something if you know you can. So if you think that you could get it done, then it'll probably be on the weekends where you would have to do most of your work for, and that would have to be like doubles, I guess, to however much money you need. But it is very expensive, and the workload is very taxing. So it's kind of a decision you have to make on your own.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Other questions from the students? Okay, I'll ask one while you're thinking. So can you give us some honest feelings and some tips for the application process?
So during the
You wanna
application process, do you want to go?
No, you got it.
Okay.
Everyone's
So
listening.
the application process, honestly, I was very stressed out and very worried, because I was like, oh my God, like if I don't get this, it's going to affect, my whole future. I've already been in school for so long, and I just want to get into a program, 2 lanes internship. And I applied to a couple of distance programs, but I didn't really even want the distance programs. But I was like, I would work with them if I had to, kind of thing. Tips for doing the process, definitely time management, because it is a lot to do all the application stuff. And I know you have other classes going on. There's just you have a lot going on right now. So I definitely use 30-25 was like my saving grace. Like this class, I credit it with like getting me into the internship, because I would not have known what to do. I would not have known, everything that I had to encompass in like the process. I wouldn't have written my personal statement 100 times and sent it to Dr. McKinley so many times. And honestly, like, just take advantage of this class. Like, my biggest and best tip is take advantage of this class and manage your time with it. Just space it out, because you don't want to do it all at once. You don't want to have to do it all at the last minute, because it's too much to handle then, because then you're freaking out about it to begin with, because it's your dietetic internship and you want to get into a program, you want somebody to take you, and you definitely don't want that to be added stress of the fact that you're not caught up on everything you have to do.
So my tips, I applied to 4 programs, so I wasn't too stressed about it, but I was definitely like, I have no idea where I'm going to end up. And I like how Marlena said, like, time management, that's very important. I did most of my stuff over Christmas break just because I had time, and I printed everything out because each program was so different. Some I had to do interviews for, some I had to make videos for. So I printed each program's requirements out, scratched off everything that I did during break. So that kind of helped me stay organized. I think organization is key during this application process. And if you are only applying to 1 or 2 programs, I would definitely reach out to the directors as much as you can, get to know them so they can get to know you. Even if you're applying to 4 programs, it's still really good to talk to the directors and meet with them. And I had a weird experience because I got into a program that I never thought I would, just because I didn't have any clinical experience, and this is kind of more of a clinical based program. So just know that of all the programs you apply to, you want to be happy for each one if you get in there, and just have an open mind. And it's a really cool experience. I feel like you always end up where you're supposed to be, so don't stress it too much.
Yeah, I like what Andy said about you may not think that you're cut out or good enough for whatever the requirements are for a specific internship. I definitely struggled with imposter syndrome, feeling like I'm definitely not cut out don't have the requirements. I didn't work hard enough from the get-go to get into an internship. But Dr. McKinley definitely made me feel like, no, you can apply, you can make things work if you work hard enough. Like now, starting in my junior year, I was a late bloomer and did not feel like I could get into an internship. I applied to 1, that was for NU, and was definitely scared that I wasn't going to get in. But I think that helped me in the end, just with DICUS applying, because you should have seen how crazy I was just months and months in advance back in the fall, going to Dr. McKinley's office over and over again. Like, she's like, well, you're fine. And I'm like, no, but look at this. Like, it's not right. And I like pull up this giant folder of stuff and paperwork. I'm like, I'm not good enough. And she's like, you're gonna be okay. Just put your best foot forward. And so I really focused in on my personal statement. I will say that we were able to evaluate some of the incoming cohorts paperwork, and I got to take a hard look at just one in particular, their whole packet. So I got to read the personal statement, the letters of rec, everything, and they were on paper just amazing. They had such great grades. I was so impressed. And but their personal statement, one of the first paragraphs, starting sentence was misspelled and just seemed like didn't really take a whole lot of time to revise it. So that to me it's really important that that's your opportunity to show them. I know Dr. McKinley says this all the time, but it's your opportunity to show them who you are and explain any kind of deficiencies or what you're all about. So don't let the misspellings or something like that get in the way of them being able to kind of focus on what's really important in that personal statement. And then of course, letters of recommendation, being mindful of teachers, professors, whoever you're asking their time. So asking in advance, I think, goes a long way. in whoever you're planning to ask. So don't be too scared to approach them and then, let too much time go by to where you may or may not be able to get the right letter of rec that you're wanting to get. And if you do have time, if you're like a junior or, it's never too late to start, but try to start forming relationships with people that would be a good letter of recommendation for you, not for that specific purpose, because it does sound like you're not being real about it, but it is important to form connections and relationships with your superiors. You can learn a lot from them in general, and you want to let them know who you are outside of just, academic. Are you able to make a good grade on a test type thing? So letters of rec are really important, making sure you ask them in advance. And then I don't think you guys have to do the GRE. So that was definitely something I did last minute that I wish I wouldn't have. And then, of course, your volunteer work and all that, just putting it all on paper, making sure that you have already secured all that stuff. And the rest is kind of pretty easy. DICUS isn't as intimidating as people make it seem, as long as you have what you need to put on there. I mean, if you don't have the volunteer work and you go to the volunteer work section, you're like, I don't have any, then it's stressful. But if you already have it, you're like, let me just fill this thing out real quick, So.
All right, any questions from our students? All right, so you all had to do videos. What are some tips you have for them as they do they're working on or finishing up their mock videos?
Try not to read straight from your script. Really try and think about what you're saying, understand what you're saying, and just talk. Don't read, because you can tell.
Definitely. I agree with that.
Yeah, just be yourself, like have a little personality in it. People don't want to see you just talk. They want to see like how you really are.
I wore this absurd looking shirt. Dr. McKinley, whenever she first started, she's like, you look like you work at the Gap. But I was trying to sell this Catholic school look.
They watched your video, so they know what you're talking about.
Like,
yes, you did look like you're working.
I'm really good at being, I'll be a good girl, I swear. Oh, wait, what was I was gonna say? I'll come back. You can go, Marlena.
Okay. So for the video, I just use what you have to your advantage. I had stuff to film with and all, so I was able to do that. But they have to watch so many of these videos, and I was like, okay, what can I do differently to make myself stand out with my video? So I don't know if y'all noticed this, but I specifically coordinated the color of my outfits to my scenes in my video. So my first one, I was in, I think it was the first scene that I was in my blue polo from my work, and it was blue was the color of our restaurant, and it was the work polo, and I was in the restaurant. Then I did my a purple dress with a jacket, and because I was on LSU's campus. And then I literally bought a Tulane green color shirt to wear for my last scenes, shooting with that. But it was just have fun with it. They want to see your personality. They want to see you stand out. And so, like I said, they have to watch so many of these videos, make it fun for them, put everything you need to, don't read, be yourself and make it fun, because they, that way they can have a little fun watching your video too.
Yeah. Oh, I remember what I was gonna say. In my video, I remember I used some undergrad type wording. So that really irks me to this day. I wish I wouldn't have said. I think I said being on campus, you're gonna be going through rotations. So say on site of your rotations, instead of just getting in the mind frame of using the wording of internships, and because we're no longer, don't make it seem like you're still in the mindset of undergrad, kind of like I did. So revise that. And yeah, like Andy said, for sure, don't read off of a script. That's what the person that I had to look at everything for the incoming cohort, where I was able to look at her interview, and that's one of the things. I mean, she could have been probably, that was a spot on interview, and she looked great and sounded great, very articulate, but you could just see that her eyes moving from side to side because she was reading, and it sounded very sterile. And I wanted to get to know her as a person, not just a script. It just doesn't seem as genuine if you don't come from the heart, I guess. So.
All right, any questions?
Oh, another side note for videos, those light rings are also really good investments for the lighting. They do
I
wonders.
wish I would have had one of those. That's probably true. Whenever I was doing mine, I was like, okay, if I do it this way, it was towards the window, then they see everything in the background. I was like, Dr. McKinley said, don't put any noise in the background, like where people are just going to get distracted. But if I went the other way, it was like I had these dark circles under my eyes, this horrible lighting. I'm like, what am I going to do? So I just had to go the other way and just had a bunch of stuff in the background. But if I had something like that, that would have definitely helped.
All right, so when you enter, well, so far, and then Brooke, to this, now that you're almost done, do you feel like you were more prepared than your non-LSU counterparts? Based off of the intensity of our undergraduate program. Did you go into your internship?
Yes.
Did it appear that you were more prepared than those around you?
For the majority, yes. I think there's at certain universities in Louisiana, or one in particular, I think they focus more on one specific area than LSU does, but everywhere else, I felt way more prepared and like we had an advantage over them. I was not very prepared for pharmacokinetics, pharmacology at all. And I felt like, I think she came from Nichols. She was pretty well versed in that area. And, but other than that, every other area was seemed like we were just, well, much more prepared than other universities by far.
I would say yes and no for me. Basically, everyone from my internship is from a different undergrad school, which is pretty cool. But I think being on Zoom my senior year, the whole year, and I don't know, I think my M&T struggles a lot this year. But I think that's also a personal struggle just from COVID and Zoom. And I definitely didn't learn as much through Zoom. So. But I definitely know, I think community is definitely my strong suit. And I definitely know how to do time management really well. And I think LSU did a great job with teaching me that.
Yeah, I felt like getting into the program, like with the 30-25 class and all, really helped. I kind of agree with what Andy said about the MNT online the last year and things like that, because I feel like it just wasn't taught the same way, and it was just a little, I didn't retain as much as I thought I would, I guess. But we have the students who completed their masters and already with Julian's program, and those students are the ones that I really feel like are like on top of it all the time. So if you're thinking about getting your master's first, that's probably actually a good idea, because I feel like the master's students are always like super, they know, they're in the know, they know what's going on. But I feel like LSU prepared me really well, but I just think we got like a good group of interns this year. Probably, I mean, maybe Tulane always has a good group, I don't know. But I feel like everyone's like on kind of a level playing field, and I feel like we can all kind of ask each other if there's any kind of deficit anywhere, and we all kind of bring something to the table and are able to offer it up.
Questions from students before I ask another one?
Okay, I have a question. So I guess throughout your internship, an overwhelming like feeling to me is just maybe not always like knowing like where I want to end up. But as you've gone through your internship, do you feel like you have more of a set out path for yourself and like you've found like where you're really like interested in? Like despite even if your internship has a area that like you really wanted to focus on before, do you feel like you kind of came out with like a different opinion on what you want to do, or has it like stayed the same? Just stuff like that.
Well, yes, mine's pretty much stayed the same. Yes, I always knew that I wasn't too interested in clinical. I've always been interested in community. I didn't know that I was going to be so interested in public policy like I am. That did begin with undergrad with Dr. McKinley's class. Actually, Andy was my partner in that class, actually. So that's kind of what kicked it off. So actually, it really has pretty much stayed the same for me as far as just wanting to just do community.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna help me decide what I don't want to do. I think doing like ICU and trauma will be a little difficult for me next year. But I definitely think the internship tells you what you do and don't like. So I'm still very interested in sports. So who knows where I'll end up. But it definitely helps prepare you for what you want to do when you graduate.
Yeah, I definitely feel like it's opened my world to a lot of other things. It gives you a lot of opportunity to kind of see what it's like actually in certain aspects of the field that you might not have thought you had any interest in before. And just might show you like you may not do what you thought you wanted to do, or you may, kind of stick to what you want to do, but you're more open to other things. Like this has kind of showed me like, okay, like starting out after I'm done with internship, I'd be a lot more open to, kind of whatever job opportunities right off the bat than I thought I would be initially. Like I kind of was like, well, I definitely want to start out and like I want to do like consulting stuff, and I want to do, which I still want to do that stuff, but I'm definitely more open to like taking a job that might not be what I thought I was going to do or what I think, I might do forever. And that's the really cool thing about dietetics is that there's so much you can do with it that even if you do something for a little while, like a couple years or something, you can basically completely change careers without changing careers, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely agree with you.
Nice, nicely said.
Thank you.
All right, so we only have a couple of minutes left. So since we only have 2 minutes left, I would love for each of our guests to kind of, like we do on my podcast, a take-home message to the students as they either are applying this year or next year.
So mine would probably just be look up from your objectives whenever you possibly can. Ask pertinent questions, burning questions that you really want to know about that area of concentration that whatever rotation you're in at the time. If you want to know, and how much do you get paid? What are the benefits like? And not just what's on the paper, on your objectives that you have to get done for your dietetic internship to satisfy whatever competency it has to do with. If you think outside of the box too. Ask questions that may, make them take a second look at you, because everyone who rotates there is going to be asking the same questions that you are about getting those objectives done. If you want to like set yourself apart from the group and make a lasting impression on that preceptor, ask them more about the company, whatever rotation you're in at the time, so that they can be like, oh, so that you're interested, or you're thinking critically about things beyond just what you need to get done here. So that's my takeaway.
I would just say go with your gut and just, I don't know, go with your gut. Don't stress too much and network. I feel like it's all about who you know, not what you know. It's very important. That's kind of the motto I go by. So yeah, networking is very important. Talk to your directors. It's all about who you know.
kind of coming off what Andy said about like who you know, don't be afraid to like ask questions. Don't be afraid to like communicate with the other interns. You might not be in rotation with other people a lot. But if you have like, if you're not sure and you think somebody else might know, ask your fellow interns, most of the time you'll have like a group message or something. Ask your director. Don't be afraid to ask Dr. McKinley stuff right now. Don't be afraid to, I'm sure she'd be willing to help you, with questions later too. But just don't be afraid to like ask, because you're there to learn primarily, and there are other people who are learning with you. So just, take advantage of the people, having the people you have around you, the other interns, your directors, your preceptors. Just don't be afraid to like communicate. And I think that'll definitely help you out.
All right. Thank you so much, Andy, Marlena, and Brooke, for coming to class today to talk with us and answer these questions. Thank you for everyone who attended, even those who are not in 3025. But if you want, are you guys comfortable with putting your emails in the chat if the students have questions?
Yeah, of course.
I will let them do that. And I'm going to stop recording, but if students have additional questions for me or for anybody on the panel that they did not want to ask on video, I will go ahead and take those.